Welcome to Dark 10. Today, we're going to go over 10 kids serving life in prison. Make sure to watch until number 1, because it's one of the youngest kid with longest prison punishment. The concept of punishing children according to the law is divisive, with some questioning whether it is indeed legal. In a fit of adrenaline, children commit heinous crimes, and the consequences destroy their lives. Here are some of the children who have spent and are likely to spend the most time in jail. Number 10, Ahmed Mansour Karni. If you believe it or not, the Egyptian government has sentenced a boy to life in prison for 4 killings, attempted murder, property vandalism, and assaulting police officers. Much of this was accomplished before the age of 2. That's right, when he started killing people, he was just a toddler. I'm not sure how that's even possible. He was born in 2012 and was sentenced to life in prison with 150 other defendants. Perhaps he was convicted solely because he was with the offenders, but this is astounding in general. Number 9, Eric Smith. Eric Smith was found guilty of second-degree murder in 1994 and received the maximum penalty for juvenile murders at the time, which was 9 years. Eric tricked a 4-year-old Darren Robbie into the woods, undressed him, strangled him to death, and then bashed his head with a rock while cycling to summer camp in the summer of 1993. Eric had been refused parole 8 times by the time he was released in 2016, and his next hearing date is in 2018. Number 8, John Silva. When John was 15 years old, he was found guilty of first-degree murder. He gaggingly abducted his friend and wrapped him in wires, bandages, and elastic until he suffocated to death. He threw his body into a septic tank after he died. If he had been an adult, he would have been sentenced to death, but John was given a life sentence without the possibility of parole. Number 7, Brian Lee Draper. When Brian and his accomplice Tori Adamant broke into their classmate Cassie's home, they were both 16 years old. They held her and stabbed her 29 times after cutting the power. They blamed each other for the crime, but they are both serving life sentences at the moment. They were inspired by the Scream franchise and the Columbine High School massacre, it was later revealed. Number 6, Lionel Tate. Lionel was the first and youngest person in the United States to be sentenced to a life sentence without the possibility of parole. He was accused of the bursary murder of a 6-year-old girl in Florida in January 2001, when he was just 13 years old. He claims they were grappling and he had her head in a headlock when he slammed her into a table and then stomped on her, causing her liver to lacerate. Number 5, Joshua Phillips. Phillips was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole in July 1999. While playing baseball, Joshua Phillips, 14, struck her 8-year-old neighbor girl with a pitch. He pulled her into his room and strangled her for 15 minutes with a phone cord before hitting her with a bat and stabbing her 11 times. Following the girl's disappearance, a week-long search began, culminating in Joshua's mother discovering the poor girl's body inside his leaking waterbed. He'd murdered her and then planned to spend the remainder of his life sleeping on her body. Number 4, Ashley Martinson. It's hard to believe a girl might be on this list for murdering her parents in such a barbaric manner. Martinson had written a poem in the woods about torturing and murdering people, and when her parents were discovered dead at her house, the police focused on her because she had fled to Indiana with her partner. She was apprehended and admitted to shooting her stepfather and stabbing her mother over 30 times. She is currently serving a cumulative sentence of 120 years in jail. Number 3, Eddie Devine. Carjacking, armed robbery, abduction, and sexual harassment were all charges against Devine. When he and a friend forced a woman into their car and drove her around while one of them raped and beat her with an ice pack, he was just 13 years old. Fortunately, the woman was able to flee while they were stopping for petrol. Eddie spent a total of 120 years in prison, including 30 years for carjacking, 30 years for armed robbery, 30 years for rape, and 30 years for sexual assault. Number 2, Kenneth Young. Kenneth was 15 years old when his mother's drug dealer threatened his family, so he wanted to take care of the situation by assisting the drug dealer in an armed robbery. However, they were both caught in Georgia while escaping a boxed robbery. Kenneth received 3 life sentences without the possibility of parole, while the dealer received 1 life sentence. This was particularly cruel, given that he was merely a child forced to do something positive in the face of adversity. He has now been sentenced to death in prison. Number 1, Travion Blunt. Travion is a 15-year-old who has been sentenced to 6 years in prison. At a house party, he and two other 18-year-olds robbed dozens of teenagers at gunpoint, taking their money, phones, and marijuana. No one was hurt because no bullets were fired, but the crimes were taken seriously. Travion went on trial and was found guilty after the 18-year-old pled guilty and accepted the plea bargain. For 24 weapons counts, 2 felonies with an armed robbery and kidnapping, he was sentenced to 118 years in prison without the possibility of parole. It's as if you're killing him over and over. He may have accepted the plea bargain, but now he can utter his final goodbyes. Subscribe Dark 10 and turn on notifications so you don't miss more videos of creepy, interesting, or scary facts and much more. Check out this playlist of my Dark 10 videos of crime and killers, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.